Hello everyone, I'm Ian Wishart.
And I'm Simon Clark.
And together we are... Oh, we haven't got a name thing, mate, have we?
No. Oh. What about the two with the pew? Or how about the pewsome twosome?
Yeah. Maybe not. Look, I don't think we need one, do we?
No.
But in any case, dear listener, the point is that Simon and I are here to bring you another episode of the Take a Pew podcast, the fun show where we meet with a Christian minister and discuss, Simon?
Yes, we discuss their younger years, things they enjoy doing, watching and eating when they're not working, as well as, of course, our regular or slightly highbrow features, Is It True?, Spiritual Pearl of Wisdom, and Simon's Random Question.
Splendid. So, Simon, shall I tell you who our guest is today?
Well, yeah, that would probably be helpful.
Well, joining us this time is the Reverend Jenny Ingram, a Church of England vicar based in the lovely village of Earls Barton. Now, I've done some pretty extensive research into Earls Barton.
Oh, well done, mate.
Yeah, thanks. And I can tell you, for example, that Earls Barton is in England.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes, impressive, eh? But actually, Wikipedia describes Earls Barton as a village that is known for its Anglo-Saxon church.
Which is where Jenny is the vicar, right?
Yep. So, lots to explore there. But let's forge ahead, because this is the Take a Pew podcast with the Reverend Jenny Ingram.
Jenny Ingram!
Take a pew.
And here we are indeed in the picturesque and surprisingly interesting Northamptonshire village of Earls Barton, and we are actually in the vicarage of All Saints Church. And you'll be pleased to know that we've been given permission to be here by the present incumbent at All Saints, the Reverend Jenny Ingram. Jenny, thank you for having us, and please, take a pew.
Oh, thank you.
Hi Jenny, lovely to meet you. Perhaps you could just introduce yourself to our magnificent listeners.
I'd be delighted to. So, yes, hello, I'm Jenny Ingram. I am 31 years old. I am, currently the vicar of Earls Barton. And I'm lucky enough to share my vicarage with my little dog Henry, my budgie Wilf. Currently single at the moment, but engaged to be married this September. So that's exciting. I was ordained in 2016 in Peterborough Diocese, and that's where I've been ever since.
Splendid, brilliant. Now, I know that you're familiar with the path of our Take a Pew chat, so let's get stuck right in. And as ever, begin at the beginning. Where did life start for you, Jenny? I understand it was somewhere not a million miles away from Morocco.
Well, not a million miles away is probably true, yeah. So actually Burnley was where I was born. So I started my life there, but quickly came to Northamptonshire when I was around 2 or 3. So my parents divorced or separated when I was about 2. So we moved from up north to a bit further down south. So I did a lot of my growing up in, Little Gidding to start off with, then Polbrook, and then Oundle.
They're all sort of round here, those places?
Yeah, they are.
So you haven't moved too far?
No, not at all, actually.
But and then you went to school at some point, I'd imagine, in that. So we've got a question for you. And our question is...
What were you like at school? Were you a little bit geeky? Or were you a little bit freaky? Or were you a little bit cheeky? What were you like at school?
Yes, Jenny, what were you like at school? Where did you go to school?
So I did my primary schooling in Polbrook. I went to Oundle Middle for years 5 and 6, so I did 2 years there. But then I really felt like my schooling began at year 7. I went to the King's School in Peterborough, which is the cathedral school. And I was there from 7 through to 13. So when I think of my school days, I think of going to King's.
Okay, that sounds quite posh. Cathedral school.
To be fair, we did have blazers and hymn books.
Oh.
Yeah, we had our own hymn book, which was pretty cool. Yes, we did get shouted at by other students around Peterborough. I remember walking to the bus stop and then saying all sorts of things to us because we did have a bit of a reputation. But I absolutely loved my school days. And I think, thinking of the jingle, I was probably all of the things. I was a little bit geeky, a little bit cheeky.
Any particular subjects you were geeky on?
Well, When I say geeky, I think I just loved my teachers. Like, we ended up going to one of our teachers' weddings. Like, that's how close we got at some stage.
Of all those lovely teachers, did you have a favourite teacher you'd like to give a name check to?
Ooh. So I have to say, someone who was a lifelong awesome teacher was Mrs. Tate. She's the one I come back to time and time again. She was one of my first RE teachers. And for me, actually, I guess, talking about how I've come to be where I am today, when I was 14, 15, that's when I kind of always was a Christian, but that's when I was like, oh my goodness, God is actually real. So I think during my schooling years, I went from starting out, loving life, being a bit hilarious, being a bit cheeky, very, very chatty, to suddenly going through this time where I was like, oh my goodness, there is a God, I do have a purpose, and there's so much more to life than I realised there was. And that, I guess it's funny thinking about it and talking about it, because that moment and that journey kind of triggered a whole set of choices that have landed me here today, for better or for worse.
Well, we should be taking that journey. What about outside all of that? What did you fill your spare time with?
Very good question. So,
Thank you.
One of the many good questions. So I grew up with my mum and my sister, and to be honest, when I wasn't at school, I would be either seeing them and doing something together with them, or seeing friends. Especially in my older years, I used to just get the bus into Peterborough, from Oundle to Peterborough, spend days like meeting up with friends, going for coffee, just chatting. And to be fair, that hasn't really changed. That is still my main hobby.
What are the highlights of Peterborough then?
Oh!
You're going to sell it to us.
Do you know what? This is really sad. The first thing that comes to my mind is the Marks and Spencer's Cafe.
Okay.
Peterborough Cathedral is stunning. Have you been to Peterborough Cathedral?
No.
Oh my goodness. For you, dear listeners as well, Peterborough Cathedral is my home. One of my spiritual homes. I love it. I also had a Saturday job from being about 14, 15. So I pot washed for a while at a local coffee shop, which I loved. It also taught me a lot about hard work, I suppose. Being in the kitchen, even in a tiny coffee shop, is really stressful. And then I worked for Coleman's of Oundle as a Saturday girl from being about 16 to 18.
What was that then?
Coleman's, again, it's a local stationer's. Also, this is exciting. You will never believe who walked into Coleman's of Oundle one Saturday to buy a Trodat datey date stamp. It was none other than
Colonel Mustard. Sorry.
I just got too excited. Couldn't wait. It was Rowan Atkinson.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally, I was the only one on shop floor, but because everything was filmed, it was all caught on camera. So I got all my colleagues and was like, "You won't believe what just happened." But that was one of the highlights of my working there.
Excellent.
Buzzling around the town, going to church, working at Coleman's.
So a lot of to and froing, and it sounds like a perfect time for us to ask you our next question. And this question is...
What's your fondest childhood memory? What's your fondest of all your childhood memories? What's your fondest?
Oh. Yes. Of all of that stuff going on, what's your fondest childhood memory?
Very good question.
Thank you.
Oh, another one.
I'm very lucky. I have a lot of fond childhood memories. The one that strikes me, although I hope it's okay to say, is that the fondest childhood memory I have is it's me pushing my guinea pig down the path in our garden in a big yellow bus.
Brilliant.
Oh, wow.
And can I just also add, I actually love animals. I'm vegetarian, and no guinea pigs were harmed in the filming of this scene of my childhood memory. But I couldn't believe. So his name was Abu, and I loved him. He was, I think he was my first pet, really. I can't remember how old I would have been.
17, 18?
Yeah, I think more 8, 9.
Oh, okay.
Luckily,
right.
But I couldn't believe. Even though at this age, even it must sound a bit silly, but I couldn't believe that I could put him in this yellow bus I had and gently just give it a push, run alongside him, and he'd end up from A to B. I think I was just fascinated with the idea that you could put him in. And
Did you steer the bus a bit, was it?
No, unfortunately not. Yeah, it wasn't quite that advanced. He just had to, bless him, cope with the slight downward roll of the path.
A step up from a hamster wheel, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
A guinea pig bus.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, I mean, ride of his life, I reckon. But yeah, I loved being outside with my guinea pigs. There was two. My sister had one as well. The other one.
The trouble with guinea pigs, they don't live that long, do they?
No, shorter in life.
Quite a traumatic thing for a child.
And do you know what's interesting? And again, points to where we are today. When they died, I insisted that we had a full funeral for them.
In the church?
No, sadly, just in the garden. Just in the garden. But my mum was like, "Oh, Jenny, please." So when the first one died, who was our other guinea pig, Puffed, I insisted that Abu was there as well to see, the service.
Yeah.
But it's so strange looking back. Even the services that you held, even though I didn't really know what I was doing, it's so funny looking back. You think, oh, God was definitely up to something.
Well, I think we can certainly agree that your guinea pigs lived a rich life.
They certainly did.
Extraordinary.
They certainly did have some adventures.
We should do a show with Abu if we were able to.
Oh.
And he'd remember going on the bus. He'd remember,
Yeah.
I remember the funeral. That was a sad day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a number of gerbils turned up to support us, but it was that's a charming memory. And we were thinking actually on the way here that if you were to that's your overall fondest memory. But we're thinking there are certain other things that kind of define our childhood sometimes. So if we were to say to you, for example, the television programme that you would immediately think of as defining your childhood, what would that be?
100% The Simpsons.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I came home from school, dump my bags, make a snack, sit in front of the television, there'd be something on, children-y, but 6 o'clock, The Simpsons were on. And that's like, okay, the night has begun.
That's very good. And what about food or a meal or...
So my mum, bless her, working hard as a single parent, my sister tended to do, not all, but when I think about my overall childhood, my sister making the same pasta and sauce every single night comes to mind, with like the same rubbery cheese on top. So yeah, when I think about, my mum also went through a terrible spinach phase. We do tease her about this now, where she believed, or there was some sort of article that came out to prove that spinach was like the ultimate food of all time. So she made sort of like a roasted spinach, a slimy gunge spinach, a dried spinach, and so we had to go through those phases. But yeah, my sister's pasta and sauce.
The pasta with sauce.
Yeah, that's the classic.
Yeah. Okay. What about final one on this song or piece of music? What one? Anything that defines your childhood?
That's a really good question. Again, I don't think no one's ever asked me that, and I've never really thought of it. There is a song that comes to mind. I hope this does count as childhood. Again, I'd been about 14, 15. And I'm taken back to my bedroom and the window's open. It's a sunny day. You can hear birdsong outside. And for some reason, I'm painting. I've got some paints out and I'm listening to Jack Johnson, Better Together. And that, for me, when I think of a song of childhood or like something that, I'm taken back to that moment.
That's great. Well, I think we've got a really good sense of what was going on in your childhood, but obviously that had to come to an end. And after school, did you go on to university or anything?
I did, yeah. So after school, I went to Nottingham University to study theology. So everyone said to me, the way to pick a subject is to do something you love. So it seemed to make sense to me that actually, doing theology would be a good way to go. Didn't have a clue what that would lead to, but I thought, well, if I'm doing something I love, then can't go too far wrong. Third year of theology, I just knew that I wanted to keep going.
So you didn't have any ideas or visions of other careers?
I did when I was younger. So when I was little, I wanted to be a vet. When I was a teenager, I think maybe a midwife. But again, I never really excelled in the sciences. I'm sure I've got this very optimistic outlook that I think if you apply yourself to anything, you can do it. But in the end, it was religion and writing and reading and faith. And not just Christianity, actually. I studied Islam at A-level, took that into my university studies as well. Like, just the nature of God and spirituality fascinated me. And so, I kept on rolling with that.
Okay, so, and then did you go straight into ordination training after uni? Or?
Not quite.
No.
So when I got to the end of my undergraduate degree, I kind of just thought, I don't know what I want to do. I just want to keep on doing this. So I did an MA at a little college called St John's College in Bramcote, which unfortunately is closed now. And there was an ideal catalyst, really, for vocation for me, because I got to do something I was comfortable at, reading, studying, writing. And alongside being an independent student, which I was at the time, there was ordinance training for ministry. So I got to watch, listen to, I got to live basically alongside ordinands and see the sort of people that God was calling to ministry, which was interesting because growing up, it had only been confident, wonderful men. And that's fine because I love confident, wonderful men. But I wasn't a confident, wonderful man, and I looked different and felt different. And in fact, well, obviously, but it wasn't until my last year at university that I actually met a female vicar for the first time. And she was actually one of the teachers. She wasn't even in the role of ministry, which is a bit scary when you think of it. Because now my life is flooded with wonderful female clergy. But yeah, it wasn't until that point really that I saw that this could be an option. So I thought to myself, yes, working for the church is something I'd love to do. What better would I give my time for? But ministry at that stage still wasn't an option. However, in that year at St. John's, I began to ask the question, God, what is it that you're calling me to? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. And I know with my whole heart that doing ministry without a vocation is a sentence that you wouldn't want. I knew that I had to really check out to see if this was good. So I spent a year doing that at St. John's, doing my MA. And then after that, I went back to Peterborough Diocese to do an internship scheme, the Church Experience Ministry scheme. And yeah, I was placed at a little church called St. Andrew's in Kettering. And that again was another year. So I had 2 years really of solid time to kind of ask that question of, God, what is it you're calling me to?
So plenty of time, as you say, sort of working in and around the environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does the church internship, what was the point of that?
The point of that was to live in the church leadership day in, day out, and basically follow the vicar around, see what he or she, in my case it was he, gets up to, and then also to try out leadership.
Is that something that is still done?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I currently have an intern myself, so I've been through that process, and now I'm, I guess, kind of mentoring someone else that's going through that process, which as well, I'd highly recommend for anyone 18 to 30 who's listening who thinks, I wonder what God is calling me to. Just a little tiny cheeky plug there.
That sounds really good.
That's fair enough. We're into plugs.
Yeah.
They make all our appliances work for a start.
Hey. Oh dear.
So that didn't put you off the idea of actual ordination, and it was at that point after doing that, did you?
Correct, yeah. So it was during that year that I was like, oh my goodness, I think this is what I'd love to do. And I felt God saying, like calling me to explore it more, opening doors, opening windows. So yes, at the end of that year, so it would have been in May actually, in 2014, I went to BAP, as it was called. Yeah. My DDO was fantastic. He'd prepared me so well, and he'd given me a lot of time to ask the hard questions. I think being younger in years, because I would have been 23, 24 at this stage, he wanted me to be sure as well, and to give myself the time to explore and just check. And
did you feel unusual in that environment, being a 23, 24-year-old woman?
I did actually. Yeah. There was a couple of other young people on the BAP weekend for me. In fact, one of the guys that was there, I ended up training alongside. He's a friend still today. But yes, there was something unusual, and there was something unusual when I was at St. John's discerning, and there was something unusual, for sure, at BAP, and then at Cranmer as well. That's where I ended up going to train.
Durham.
That's correct, yeah. So Cranmer Hall in Durham, which is part of St. John's College. And actually there was a contingent of probably, 15 to 20 of us who were in our early mid-20s. And that was such an affirming time. It was so great.
And obviously you felt affirmed and encouraged, and that helped you in your studies, and you got ordained and then had to find a parish to go to, I guess.
So yes, after that I needed to find a parish. Wasn't sure where to go, but it felt natural to go home. So I went back to the Peterborough Diocese, and I was a curate in a little village church called Wootton, only 15 minutes up the road from here.
All right. Okay.
So I was there for 3 years with Reverend Lakshmi.
Did you find yourself champing at the bit to actually be the vicar somewhere during that period? Or?
Really good question. Yes, I think there's this whole thing of in college you're trained up how to be a vicar, how to be a leader. You're full of all these ideas. And then you go into being number two, and actually you can't release all of your kind of, I wonder what we should do here. But actually, I remember our warden at the time, the warden of Cranmer Hall, Mark Tanner, who's now a bishop, he said to us, actually, your job as a curate is to go somewhere and to serve your vicar. So I feel like although I was, a bit champing at the bit, like you say, he had prepared us well to remember that actually we were there to serve them and their vision. I was such a nervous curate. I had to have a lot of hand-holding, I think, in my first year. And but again, the church family, I've been so lucky both at St Andrews in Kettering and at St George's in Wootton. Such a supportive and kind and generous church family who get this little, well, not little, but like 20-something coming through the doors full of optimism, full of passion, and give her the opportunity to think, actually, she might have something to say about God. And this is interesting in a way because, you know, when you are younger in years and female, there can be a kind of, or what have we got ourselves in for? But they didn't at all. And I feel, really grateful for that and encouraged by that. There's always going to be one person who says things like, what are you joined the church for? Shouldn't you be partying? And I remember someone saying this to me at I've just done a funeral. And it was someone who had been doing some tech or some music. And he said, shouldn't you be living your best life? How old are you? You should be, not doing this in the church. And I remember just thinking like, how wrong you've got it. Like, this is exactly what it's all about for me. There is nothing else that I would rather be doing.
So, and then you moved on to actually being a vicar. And so you came here to Earls Barton.
Yes.
Did you have a great choice of parishes? How was that whole process?
Well, so here's something interesting. Well, not interesting. You might think it's terribly boring.
Yeah, well, we'll judge whether it's interesting. We'll let you know after you've told us whether it's interesting or not.
So my archdeacon is a really good family friend. He was also my sending vicar growing up, so he knows me through and through. And he was the one that said, Jen, there's this parish coming up and I really think it might be a great fit for you. So actually he was the one which is kind of obviously the job of your senior leadership, to sort of see what's coming up and what might be right. And to be honest, I was very lucky because I was a curate in a single parish. And a lot of the parish profiles, so a lot of the jobs that were potentially coming up were for benefices of 3, 4, 5 churches. And I was thinking, as a first-time incumbent, am I going to manage more than one? I can't. So when Earls Barton came up, he said, I think this might be something. Have a look at it. And I came to the village to have a look the day before I came for interview to park. You know how you think, I'm a bit nervous about where to park. I'll come before. So I drove up. And as I parked, I was like, I've been here before. And I realised that when I was a curate, I used to get on a bus to go to Kettering for the dentist. This does have a point, I promise. And one day I was driving through, I was sat on the bus on my way to the dentist, and I came through this village, and I was slunk in my seat on the bus listening to music. And all of a sudden, I literally sat up, bolt upright, and I looked around and I saw this church on a mound. And these shops and this like buzzing village life all around the centre of the church. And I said, God, I remember it so clearly. I said, God, I would love to work in a place like this. Wow. And so when I pulled up to park the day before my interview, I thought, I've been here before. And I was in the place that I had passed through on the bus that had literally made me sit bolt upright and go, I'd love to work here. And so my surprise when that happened, and I did tell the church family that, I think on my 3rd or 4th week with them, I said, look, there's something I've got to tell you. I think it's just hilarious. And again, that reassurance, that assurance for me that this was the right place to be that's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
And interesting. It was totally interesting.
Yeah.
Was that the thing that was meant to be interesting?
No, it was just the archdeacon that's interesting.
Oh,
He's a very interesting person.
No, that was less interesting. But the vision, it was a sign.
Yeah, it really was.
Incredible.
I know, it sounds potentially cheesy, or potentially you think, what, are you sure? I remember it as clear as day.
Very good. Well, it feels, obviously we've only just come into the village, but it feels like quite a nice sort of community type place.
It's wonderful.
How is parish life for you?
Parish life here is really good. I'm learning a lot all the time. And the church family are, again, very kind, very supportive, encouraging. And they're full of wisdom as well. I mean, I always think, and I often say to them, actually, your vicars will come and go. I'm only here for a season. But it's the parish, it's the community that bring the church to life. And they're the ones that will really help and affect change. So at the moment, I guess we're going through a season where we're girding our loins post-COVID to work out, discern, and continue to follow who we are as a church family, what we want to achieve. But yeah, it's amazing here. People have been so kind, and I've been here, it's crazy, nearly 3 years, but felt settled since day one, if I'm honest.
So thinking about it, coming into a role pretty much as the pandemic was kicking in.
Yeah, I think I had about 8 months before.
So much harder to really get settled, I imagine.
Yeah, that was really hard work, but we have again a lovely and impactful lay readers who and lay pastoral ministers again who would call round and keep people together.
Talking about lay readers and that sort of thing, I was going to ask you whether you had a ministry team or whether it was just you or...
Yeah, well, yes, we do. We have a wonderful lay reader called Simon, and he is fantastic. And we have another one training actually from September. She is called Grace, and she's currently a lay pastoral minister. So it's wonderful to work with them as a team. And actually, there are lots of other gifted preachers in the church as well. And of course, we've got our intern. Yeah, I think when I first arrived, I wasn't really sure how to work well in a team. So that's been a big learning curve as well, and one that I've still got learning to do. Training myself more and more to realise that actually leadership is about empowering others and seeing their gifts.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'm sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure that will continue to go very well. But it's always a funny question because what you do is vocational, but what do you fill your time with when you're not working?
Another wonderful question. So this is a really good one because at theological college, they drilled into us, get a life. Whatever you do, don't let ministry swallow you whole. Get a life, do some stuff, be a 3D person. And I've tried so hard to be a 3D person. So basically, trying to re-find friends when you are 20-something in a tiny village is hard. So I just joined all the groups. I did a running group, a yoga group, I think a reading group at one point. When I moved to Earls Barton, my big hobby was joining women's rugby. And all my friends teased me. They were like, Jenny, you will literally die. They will maul you and you will be crushed. But then the pandemic hit and I never went back. And I was rubbish, to be honest. The girls were so kind to me. But I loved it because I would never have met a group of people like those girls unless I'd gone. So that was an awesome time. Nowadays, my hobbies literally include getting a lovely book, going to a coffee shop and just having an hour or two, being with a friend, going for a walk. Like I'm a bear of very simple pleasures or whatever the thing is.
Taking doggy out for a walk?
Oh yeah, that's a very good time in my life. Spending time with Chris. So obviously I'm single at the moment, preparing to get married. So actually, yeah, spending time with him and his family, with him and my family, and just kind of getting excited about what that will look like as well has been important. And actually learning how to be disciplined well about my time, again, is a journey that I'm trying to be better at. Something that I used to do a lot of and don't now is music. When I was at Cranmer Hall, I sang in a band. I used to play the guitar, things like that. And I've put that down for a while. But I wonder if this podcast may have enthused and challenged me to pick up something musical again. Because
that would be weird. I'm not quite sure how it would inspire you to do that.
Because it's like, well, what do you do apart from ministry? Like, how have you got a life?
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? How do you refresh your soul? Like, what's the stuff that gives you life? It's challenged me to think, well, actually, what do? I do run, and I'm part of this gym for ladies over 30, which I absolutely love, and it makes me laugh my head off. Obviously, podcasting, that's enjoyable, but I don't have any super cool hobbies, and I want some, so I'm going to try and get some.
There's plenty of time, and it has been a difficult, moving to a new place, being part of a new community, having to deal with all of that in the pandemic. As a single person, it's not easy, is it? So, anyway, you mentioned podcasts in passing. So one thing you do, and I'm pleased you did mention it, is a podcast. Called The Vicar's Watch Dibley.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
With a couple of friends.
Yes. So
a couple of ministry colleagues, clergy colleagues, are they? Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Obviously, that's where the title comes from.
Yeah.
So where you watch the episodes of The Vicar of Dibley and chat about it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, oh, it's so fun. So, Rev Ruthie and Rev Caitlin are the two women that I do the podcast with. And as you say, we watch an episode, make some notes, and then we get together, we go through the episode. But really, it's a springboard to talking about what it's really like to be a young woman in ministry. And it's just fun, really. But actually, it does lead into some quite big conversation and some deep theological truths.
Yeah,
as well.
It's great fun. I have listened to a couple of them. It's great fun. Keep it up. It's great. So give us the headlines then, because one of the things I know is drawing out where it isn't necessarily that reflective of real life. What headlines would you pick out from things where Vicar of Dibley doesn't quite give you the fair picture?
Oh, that's a really good point. We never really see the utterly exhausted side of Geraldine. We never see her weeping because either sometimes because she's got it wrong, actually, it does show that. It doesn't show the stress levels of the amount of things there are to do. It doesn't show Geraldine tied to the desk replying to emails until goodness knows what time in the morning. Maybe that's just a terrible insight into my life, actually.
Oh gosh,
rather
that
than
sounds very stressful.
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, of course, it doesn't really picture exactly what ministry is like, but there's so much of it that really does. And I actually find sometimes when I'm talking to someone who is like a Vicar of Dibley character, I just have an inward smile of just loving actually the people that God's put us in front of. And seeing that on the screen actually brings me so much comfort.
Very good. Well, I mean, one thing that struck me, because famously, I don't know, I presume it's the first episode where Geraldine arrives in Dibley and famously goes to see David Horton and turns round from hanging her coat up or whatever the bit was. And he's essentially, oh, you're a woman. Yeah. Did you have any echo of that when you arrived here?
No.
Okay,
because
Let's clear
in
that
a
one.
word, because the incumbent previous to me was a woman, she really paved the way, actually. And when I was a curate, I was with a woman then as well. So no, I didn't have any shock factor, because what happens when Geraldine walks through the door of Horton Manor and David sees her for the first time, he doesn't go, "Oh, you're like just a woman." He literally goes, "Oh," and he covers his mouth with his hand, and it's such a strong, like, emotional reaction of, "Oh my gosh, you're a woman wearing a dog collar. Like, what is this?" So I've never had that. What I did have once was somebody asked me if I was in fancy dress. Again, another bus ride. They're like, "Oh, you're in fancy dress," and I was like, "No, I really, this is really is who I am." The other funny thing, I guess, was
you get asked that quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah, most of the time, most days.
The only other thing was someone coming to the door and saying, "Oh, is your mum or your dad in?" When they're expecting the curate, but it was there I was. That was another slightly terrible time. But
well, look, Jenny, you've been working very hard, and you'll be pleased to know that after all of that inquisition and all of those good questions, picnic time is almost upon us.
Hurrah.
Which, of course, means that it's time for our little game called My Favourite Things.
My favourite things.
Yes, as you know, this is a very simple game, Jenny. We'll give you 5 categories, and you just have to tell us your favourite thing in that category.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right. And our first category is always your favourite book of the Bible.
yes, it is. I'm going to go for Psalms.
Okay.
And it's because I love that every emotion is captured. There is always wisdom that you can draw. There is always something that is challenging. And once somebody said to me, if you read something in the Psalms that horrifies you, pray it on behalf of the person that truly does feel like that, who is being hunted down or captured. And I found that really, really handy as well. So I use it as a tool for prayer. I use it as a resource of inspiring and restoration.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay.
We've had a few psalms, haven't we?
Yeah, I think they're still winning. Just about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
okay.
so. Yeah,
Great.
good.
No, thanks. Okay, next one, Jenny. Your
Yeah.
favourite game?
What sort of game are we talking? Or can I take this down?
Take
Whatever
it
you
down,
like.
whatever you like. Yeah.
Okay, I've got one. I mean, I do love games. I love board games. I love bowling games. I love playing games with friends on the Wii or PlayStation. But my all-time favourite game is Uno. I love Uno. And I play it with my family most Sundays.
That's a card game,
yeah.
isn't it? You know?
If you don't know it, I will force you to play it after this
I think we
podcast.
have played it, yeah.
It's, numbers, colours on a card.
That's
you can
it,
reverse
yeah.
it, you can
Oh,
plus
yeah,
4, you can
yeah.
plus 2. Oh, it's magical. But yeah, favourite game is Uno.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's a great.
My
I hadn't-
favourite
I hadn't-
game is mine's probably pheasant or partridge.
Yes. Very good. With bread sauce.
Free the birds! Free the birds!
Let's not go there. Sorry.
Oh yes.
Single vegetarian tear rolled down her cheek.
Good shout,
Like
actually.
that.
Very
Yeah,
good.
very good.
You know.
Uno. Like
Right,
it.
so our third category this season is always your top 5 films.
Yes, I did think long and hard about this. If I'm honest, I just have a top 1 film.
Okay,
But I will go through my 5 because,
Good.
I just did some
that's
extra
kind of how the
homework.
show works, so that would be nice.
I will try and answer. So The Lion King is my all-time favourite film. I have been addicted and obsessed to this film to the point where my mum actually had to confiscate it at one point in my childhood because I literally just watched it back to back. The Lion King's my number one. I love Calendar Girls. That's a classic that I return to time and time again. Wonderful film.
I haven't seen that for a while, actually. It's a good reminder.
It is good. It's a good film. Yeah.
Miss Congeniality. I love Sandra Bullock. I think she's a fantastic actress. And that is a great film. So that'd be my number 3. I love The History Boys. That's a great film.
Okay.
Don't know that
A
one.
little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit different. Public school boys learning about poems, history, go on trips,
Brilliant.
slightly dodgy professor. It's a really, I think Alan Bennett.
I was going
isn't
to
it?
say,
I was to check that one
I was
out.
going to venture that it was Alan Bennett when I thought...
Yes, James Corden was in it.
That's right, of
There's a
course.
number of famous. Forgive me, I'm terrible with names, but yeah, there are. The cast is exceptional. The storyline is quirky and haunting, but really relatable, I think, for school days. I find it so, even if obviously different gender, them being boys and I'm a girl, but I'd really highly recommend that.
Yeah,
So
very
it's a top
great
5.
choice, I think.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. Yeah, okay.
And then my final one, I did have a toss-up of a few. I think I'm going to go for The King's Speech, actually.
Ooh,
yeah.
okay.
That is a film that I found really captivating and powerful, so that would be my final choice.
Some classy choices in there.
Good choice.
Do you run us through the ones that didn't quite make the list then?
Inside Out.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fantastic film.
Yeah, that is
Again, great teaching for mental health, how the mind works. Very, very important. So Inside Out didn't quite make it. Big Hero 6. I really wanted to do Big Hero 6. And my fiance Chris was like,
Excellent.
Jenny, you can't do Big Hero 6. That's a bit, but it's a wonderful
good.
film.
Why not?
That story, again, is so emotional, but what a glorious ending. So, and then The Proposal, another Sandra Bullock classic.
Yeah, I like that one, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a little
I
bit,
like all of those.
bit girly, but
Quite eclectic. If you include all of those, they
Yeah.
run the gamut of all sorts of things.
Certainly does, yeah.
Very good. All right,
No,
very
like
good.
that. That's brilliant. No, thank you very much. Well, sort of fairly, closely past Easter. So we were going to. What's your favourite egg?
Can I just say a chocolate one?
Yes,
You can. You can say a chocolate one.
So chocolate egg. I do love. Do you know what? I was saying this to my friend the other day. There is something beautiful about the chocolate egg. For some reason, the best chocolate is the chocolate in the shape of an egg.
So the hollow one, not the
yeah.
cream egg thing.
I've always wished that they would make an Easter egg-sized cream egg.
You might die. Honestly,
you'd be serious here.
You would be so sick afterwards,
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
you really would.
But it would be amazing.
Because that's not the sort of thing you could save over time. Because the goo would start to dribble everywhere.
Yeah.
So you'd only could eat your massive cream egg.
It would be
in one.
down in one. Well, not down in one, but... So a chocolate egg.
chocolate
of all
egg.
I mean, eggs are magnificent, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
let's
are.
think about real eggs. How do you like your eggs?
How do you like?
That's the one.
I like my eggs all kinds of ways. I'm a fan of the traditional boiled egg, really.
Boiled,
To be honest,
okay.
I was vegan for about 3 to 4 years through my theological training days. So sometimes when I talk about eggs, I feel a bit sad.
Right.
And it's the same with milk. So when I think about eggs, I do think about the industry. And actually, I think the best egg is an egg where you know where it's come from.
Most of them
Sensibly.
come from a chicken.
Well, that's
if
true.
that's any comfort. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to stick with chocolate egg as my favourite egg.
Okay.
One last egg that is my favourite.
Yes.
That is the shaky egg. There are a couple on my
shaky.
shelves.
Oh, yes.
The shaky egg
What a
is
good
the
shout.
best sound keeper ever.
Like
Tricky,
all
like that.
percussion instruments, quite difficult to play as well. And incredibly loud. Everyone assumes, I'll just have the little egg thing. And they completely ruin an entire performance because all you can hear is this...
The shaky egg.
But, there we go. All right, very good. So
Practice.
eggs.
Yeah.
Eggs are amazing.
They are
I love
amazing.
it. I love eggs.
Good.
Anyway, our fifth and final category is always multiple choice. I'll make it a bit easier by giving you 3 possible answers. And as we're here in Earls Barton, we'd like to know your favourite Barton.
Right.
So, lovely Hampshire coastal town Barton-on-Sea. The lovely cul-de-sac that Simon lives in, which is called Hayes Barton. Or former PLC chairman and Simon's dad,
What?
Barton Clark. So your favourite...
Totally weird, isn't it?
Really weird.
Your favourite Barton-on-Sea, Hayes Barton, the cul-de-sac, or Barton Clark, Simon's dad.
I'm going to have to go for Barton Clark, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's the only answer.
Cool.
You've got to go person over place, haven't you?
Probably.
I like that.
Barton on
I'd be
Sea is
chuffed.
very nice, though.
Here's a shout out for your dad.
He'll
Yes.
be really chuffed with that. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
It's-
that's
Yeah,
good.
massive shout out. Although I do love the seaside. But yeah, people over place every time.
Right, perfect.
Yeah.
There we go.
Excellent. No, thank you.
Barton, well done, Barton.
Yeah, no, well done.
You
Well
win
done,
that
Dad.
game.
Yeah, what a
Yeah, that's the first. That's really
fantastic
good.
name.
Strange coincidence. That I thought we
It's
can't-
just
can't
weird,
miss
isn't
on
it?
Yeah.
Anyway, a glorious set of answers there,
yeah.
Jenny. And with that, it's high time we journeyed in our minds to the perfect spot for some outdoor dining. As we ask you the question...
What would you pick in your perfect picnic if the picking were up to you? Would you be sticking in some finger licking chicken, or would you be silly and pick Piccalilli? Tell us, what would you choose?
Oh dear. Yes, what would you pick in your perfect picnic? But before you unveil the delights inside your picnic hamper, Jenny, where would you like to go for your perfect picnic?
I've wrestled with this question because I originally imagined myself in a glorious forest. But do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take you to the seaside. I want to have a picnic on the beach, please.
Nice.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Proper sandwiches.
Oh no.
That is the downside, isn't it? Any
To
particular
be
beach?
fair, that's true. I go to Cornwall with my lovely Chris and also with two of our wonderful friends, Ben and Emma. We go to the same place-ish every year, which is near Trevone.
Okay.
In Cornwall, and there's a beach there that I love and I have so many happy memories on. Sun going down, usually a barbecue if I'm honest, but this time I'm going to take a picnic, and yeah, that's where I'd like to go.
Perfect. That's
Fantastic.
okay. So it
Yeah.
sounds great. So there we are on the beach. I guess we've got a blanket. We might even have a stripy windbreak around us.
Oh yeah.
And we open up the hamper, and what do we find inside?
First of all, there is a really mini speaker because a perfect picnic for me is with a little bit of lovely background noise. Something acoustic, something chilled. That's on the side. The other important thing for a picnic for me is people. So having friends around, that's important. But let's get into the basket, shall
Yes.
we?
Yeah.
I am open to different varieties, but the cheese and pickle sandwich for me is the ultimate. So that would probably be the sandwich option I'd go for.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it was a bit of detail we need there. 'cause
brown bread,
We're not
yeah.
just superficial on this podcast, you know. So yeah, so we need bread, cheese, and pickle,
Yeah.
and spread.
This is controversial.
Okay.
The bread is brown with a light dusting of nutty topping on the top. It's a decent wholemeal bap, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You open it up and there's a light layer of... I'm happy with margarine or butter. I know, controversial, yeah. But if I was going to be greedy, on both sides, on both flaps of the bun
Okay.
are layered with margarine or
both-
butter.
okay, both
yeah,
sides.
Both
You
sides,
see, I'm
okay.
very fussy about butter.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm very fussy. And if I get a sandwich in a shop, typically a sandwich shop, and
You're not one of these
I
annoying
went
people.
into Mossbros once and asked for, you have egg mayonnaise on granary, and they said no. So I went next door to Smith's and they didn't have them either. But if I get a sandwich and it comes with margarine on it,
Yeah.
it just ruins it completely for me.
Can you tell straight away?
Yeah, of course. I
Really?
can. And
course I
it also, if I'm being particularly petulant, if I'm in an actual sandwich shop that's making them, and they say, "Would you like butter?" I look at the large tub of obviously margarine, and say, "I would, but do you have any butter?" And they say, "Well, it was this." Well, that's spread, isn't it? So
And interesting. I probably actually wouldn't be able to tell the difference,
I would've
which
gone
may
to
offend your palate
Sandwich
deeply.
shop with you, mate. Do you just make it yourself, mate? It's over there.
And all the ladies crying. They didn't like our spread.
yes. Anyway, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, anyway,
I digress somewhat.
Yeah.
Well,
So
ideally
you've
a
got-
double spreaded
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
balance out the meatiness of the bread. And then we're going to get into the pickle itself. But by the way, I don't believe there's anything silly about piccalilli. I mean, the rhyme is fantastic, but I'm open to pickled goods. Branston pickle would be the pickle of my
Yes.
choice.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And I have flirted with other sort of chutneys and things in the past, but yeah, Branston pickle for me with a cheese. Now the cheese again, I'm not bothered. I'm very boring. I like a mild cheese or a cheddar or a red Leicester. I'm not into any of your fancy cheeses. Nothing blue. Nothing exceptional. Just a bog standard wedge of cheese.
Quite
Branston
thickly
pickle.
cut, big wedge.
Yeah, I
of
would
cheese,
say
Yeah.
so. Not too big because for me the best part is the pickle. So if you're going to layer up something, it'd be the pickle.
If you were in your vegan mode, you could just therefore have a pickle sandwich, couldn't you?
To be honest, often in my life, I find I love the sauce item more than the... So, for example, I love mint sauce. I don't need the meat. I could put mint sauce on vegetables and be perfectly content.
Yeah, very nice.
So, yeah.
I think I'm just imagining a pickle sandwich now, and it was one thing I used to do when I was young was I used to have vinegar sandwiches. So it's just get a piece of bread,
Just soak it in vinegar.
yeah, and just soak it in vinegar,
way!
which it made your blood itch. And I'm now thinking of having a vinegar sandwich with pickle inside it.
Wow,
It
you
would-
might explode.
It would make your eyes bleed, I think, wouldn't it?
What an image.
But so cheese and pickle
So,
sandwich
just
is
a pickle
perfect.
sandwich, yes. I mean, because we're in Cornwall, you could argue, well, actually, you should have a pasty, not a sandwich, and it would be cheese and onion, or leek and potato. Yeah.
Right. Well, you could have, but it's your perfect picnic.
Yeah.
You could
Well, I
have
know, but
that.
you can't be greedy in your perfect picnic, can you?
can.
You've got
Save
to
a
have a
bit for
sandwich
later.
and a pasty and some
that's the
crisps
whole
and a
point.
cake and a drink. Okay, well, maybe a pasty as well, just for a little snack on the way home.
Yeah.
Also, in my perfect picnic would be a flask of coffee with a big chunk of soya milk. That's my best drink. However, in my picnic basket that I actually do own, I've got mini wine glasses. So if there was a little mini bottle of wine or a little mini bottle of Prosecco, then popping that on the beach would be a dream
nice.
for me as well.
And for dessert?
Ideally, now this is my one healthy thing, I'd like a banana to be there.
So just a banana. And that's it.
No, definitely not.
Oh.
That was just my
Oh,
tiny
just a
little
little-
banana
yeah.
thing. I think to finish, if I'd gone to the bakery to get my cheese and pickle sandwich, then some sort of bakery cake. I tell you what I love, but I never allow myself to eat really, is I think they're called vanilla slice or a custard slice. Pastry, a big wedge of, I think they're like custard, but it sort of stays there. I mean, if I was going to go all out, that would be my favourite dessert. If not, a little Tunnocks caramel bar. Chuck that in there.
Tunnocks.
Okay.
Oh,
Very nice.
very good. Oh,
That sounds great.
quite
I'm
hungry now, actually.
positively drooling with the idea of all of that.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Delightful.
anyway, well, we hope you enjoy such a picnic very soon, Jenny.
Thank you.
But back to the Ingram voyage through life, and we've talked about long ago and today. So let's turn our minds to things to come. And we present to you the longest jingle on the show.
12 years from now, where would you like to be? Working hard in a town, or chilling by the sea? 12 years from now, what would you like to be doing? Or would it mainly be the same? Or would you rather be canoeing, for example?
Yes, Jenny. What would you like us to be talking about if we were having this conversation with you 12 years from now?
So 12 years from now, I'll be in my mid-40s. 12 years from now is quite a big time in my life. I think from 12 years from now, I will probably have left the parish of Earls Barton. I don't know for sure, and in fact, if I was to stay, that would be no bad thing at all. But I think I probably will have moved. I think if I could dream up where I'd love to be, I would love to be working in the region of maybe vocations for the diocese. Really interested in those. So on a working level, maybe that. I mean, obviously maybe canoeing as well, because that's good fun. I wonder so I'm getting married obviously this year. I'd love to, if we are lucky enough to be blessed with a family. So it'd be nice to be talking about maybe having some sproglets running around. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, 12 years from now is it feels like a big part
It's a
of
really-
life.
yeah,
It's going to be a very
it's
At
tough.
your
quick pace.
stage,
Yeah.
there's a lot happens
Yeah.
in those 12 years. isn't
Yeah,
there?
there is.
Really interesting.
I mean, yeah, we don't know what the state of the world will be like in 12 years, but I think, I mean, I love parish ministry so much. So if not here, somewhere else parish, but I think, vocations
With
as well
that
would be
vocation,
such an
yes.
interest to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you every blessing, Jenny, wherever life may take you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the part of the show where we need to dust off those little grey cells as we raise the intellectual and indeed spiritual stakes.
Yes, we look forward to your spiritual pearl of wisdom very shortly, Jenny, but first, we're hoping that you can help us with an important question relating to faith and the Bible. And we call this part of the show...
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
Yes, is it true? And this time we have unearthed some scholarly research surrounding the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. And there is a suggestion that rather than seeking to flee Egypt entirely, the Israelites had organised a large beach barbecue on the banks of the Red Sea. Now, a few chaps have been sent ahead because we all know it takes ages to get a barbecue going. And they found a good spot on top of a shoreside hill, which then, we are told in the book of Exodus, served as a guide to the Israelites as they were able to see the fire from the barbecue by night and a smoke coming off the barbie by day. Now, of course, at some point during the beach party, someone had put some especially moist meat over the charcoal, which kicked up a load of smoke. And because of the way the wind was blowing, this obstructed the view of the chasing Egyptian armies, angry, of course, because they hadn't been invited to the party. This is all described in Exodus chapter 14, by the way. Anyway, stick with me. During all of this, someone spotted, of course, that there was a dry path through the sea, and they decided on the spot to take their chance and get out of Egypt for good. So, Reverend Jenny Ingram.
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
I mean, it's a very creative idea, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I'm imagining what would be my response if one of my beloved parishioners or church family came up to me and said, "Look, I've been having a read of Exodus, and I think I've got this thing." And I'm thinking, how would I respond? But I don't think it is true.
No, you don't think it's
no.
true. Well, I think I have done a lot of research.
Okay,
on
yeah.
this, okay.
You've thought about this a
And
lot.
there
haven't you?
are echoes of this great barbecue throughout
Yeah.
the Bible, because I presume they would have taken it with them walking around the wilderness.
Yeah.
So a bit later, Moses, when he gets the Ten Commandments, clearly takes the barbecue up the top of Mount Sinai, because the Bible tells us about the smoke coming off the barbecue, covering the top of the mountain. And then Jesus himself, the resurrected Jesus, sees the disciples on the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He fires up the barbecue.
He does, yeah.
And gets a fish on it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true, actually. Yeah.
So
I mean,
presumably
yeah.
in celebration of the seminal historical event of the Exodus. So you're not...
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
No, I don't. I'm not sure, really.
you
So
think
you
the
think it's probably not true? don't
I
you,
think
there's
it's
barbecue
probably
involved?
not true, but I think that it's really important to see God in all things. And actually, this might be food for thought for next time we're at a barbecue, for us to remember the pilgrimage of the Israelites and all that God did for his people.
That's
Splendid.
brilliant. That's a really good message for everyone, isn't it? Listening to this podcast.
Yeah,
Next time you're at a
absolutely.
barbecue. Yeah, fantastic.
And have these debates with your friends, yeah.
It's a whole new celebration. I feel quite privileged to have kicked that idea off. Anyway, well, that was Is It True? Sponsored by Weber Barbecues. Everything you need for glorious garden gastronomy.
Really, mate?
No, I was making that bit up.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, with that, Jenny, perhaps you could grace us with your spiritual pearl of wisdom.
It's a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
I would like to share with you a spiritual pearl of wisdom that was passed down to me. I hope it's not too dark. Have a think in your mind, just for a second, about someone who you really hate. I know it's a bit off-key, isn't it? Think of someone who winds you up, or actually even more than that, someone who may even repulse you. Someone you've seen or heard of who has done perhaps terrific evil. Okay, yes, I am venturing into the darker realms here. Just in your mind's eye, just imagine what that person might be like. I don't know, someone who starts war or something terrible that you can think of. Well, someone once told me that that person that we're thinking of now is the very person for whom Christ died. And when I learned this for the first time, it helped me to re-see the whole of humanity differently. That Christ would die for that person, for me, has changed the outlook of how I see every person. And so I hope that this will help you too, to embrace those people and to see them through the eyes of Christ. For if they were the only person that existed, Christ still would have died for them.
It's a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
Well, thank you very much for that, Jenny. And as ever, I am sad to say that we close the show with the usual shambles of infantile drivel that we like to call...
Simon's random question.
Simon, what is your random question for Jenny?
Well, Reverend Jenny Ingram, we know that you love spending time with your dog Henry, but my random question for you is this. If all animals were the same size, which would be the best? So, for example, if you had a spaniel the size of an elephant, or an elephant the size of a spaniel, which would be the best? Which would be the worst?
It's a combination, I suppose. Good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe it's the perfect size for every animal to be, and then if they were all whatever size, which would be the best animal?
Which would be the best animal?
Because as Simon says, if a spaniel were the size of a horse, it wouldn't be quite as endearing, would it?
Nice, would it?
But a horse the size of a spaniel would
be really cute.
Be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what comes to my mind for this answer would be, do you know the best size of anything is the size at which you can hug it? So I think my favourite size would be actually probably a horse-shaped size. I think is a good size.
But then, horse.
But then if you think of a bee, you think of a bee the size of a horse, you think that's actually quite scary.
Yeah.
But then if it was a friendly bee and did want you to hug it, then that would be amazing.
It'd be really cuddly, wouldn't it? Because they are fluffy, yeah.
Maybe a llama size, because that's a little bit bigger than a dog.
Or a donkey.
Yes, maybe donkey size is good. Because you can always find space to bring a donkey into your home.
So, part 2 of this question, if I may be so bold, Simon.
Oh, okay.
I realise it's your question.
No, it's fine. You can elaborate.
If all animals were the size of a donkey,
Yeah.
which would be the best animal?
I just love lions. I think the lion. I mean, there's something very endearing about a tiny elephant, or a smaller elephant, or a more compact giraffe. But terrifying.
That'd be really cute,
but
wouldn't
think
it?
of a donkey-sized spider.
That
gives me a
definitely wouldn't
shiver.
be the best.
A flea, because a flea, I looked this up the other day actually, it can jump 100 times its body length, a flea.
Incredible.
So you can imagine fleas the size of a horse, jumping half a kilometre.
Yeah.
So you'd be walking around and be fleas jumping half a kilometre.
Wow. And think
up
of the
into the
amount
air.
of food that they would need to power that as well.
Yeah,
That's
and they wouldn't.
a terrifying thought.
Lots of
I
other
think
animals.
it'd be the end of the world as we know it.
I
really,
mean,
wouldn't
this
it?
question
Yeah.
makes me grateful for diversity. Thank the
Yeah.
Lord for all creatures great and small.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All creatures great and small. Lovely antidotes to the fatuous nature of your question, Simon.
Thank you.
But it's I think what it shows us is that God created all animals to be just about the right size. What a clever old thing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. But that was
Simon's Random Question.
Feast of metal glory. Sorry.
And so, Jenny, I'm afraid that really does bring us to the end of the show. We've had a wonderful time here in Earls Barton. Thank you for having us, and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it's been lovely to be with you. Thank you for having me.
And dear listeners, thank you for joining us once again. Somewhat surprisingly, we've got more great guests lined up in coming weeks. So keep an eye out for those, and don't forget to follow us on social media or subscribe to the YouTube channel. In the meantime, it's Toodle Pip from me.
And Tatty Boy from me.
Join us again next time as we take a pew.
Take a pew.